at another new restaurant. An excerpt from American Psycho by Bret, Easton, Ellis. At another new restaurant. For a limited period of time, I'm capable of being halfway cheerful and outgoing, so I accept Evalyn's invitation to dinner during the first week of November at Luke, a new super chic nouveau Chinese restaurant that also serves, oddly enough, Creole cuisine. We have a good table, I reserved under Wintergreen's name, the simplest of triumphs, and I feel anchored, calm, even with Evalyn sitting across from me prattling on about a very large Fabergé egg she thought she saw at the Pierre, rolling around the lobby of its own accord, or something like that. The office Halloween party was at the Royalton last week, and I went as a mass murderer, complete with a sign painted on my back that read, Mass Murderer, which was decidedly lighter than the sandwich board I had constructed earlier that day that read, Driller Killer. And beneath those two words I had written in blood, Yep, that's me. And the suit was also covered with blood. Some of it fake, most of it real. In one fist I clenched a hank of Victoria Bell's hair, and pinned next to my boutonniere, a small white rose, was a finger bone I'd boiled the flesh off of. As elaborate as my costume was, Craig McDermott still managed to win first place in the competition. He came as Ivan Boesky, which I thought was unfair since a lot of people thought I'd gone as Michael Milken last year. The Patty Winter show this morning was about home abortion kits. The first 5 minutes after being seated are fine. Then the drink I ordered touches the table, and I instinctively reach for it, but I find myself cringing every time Evalyn opens her mouth. I notice that Saul Steinberg is eating here tonight, but refuse to mention this to Evalyn. A toast? I suggest. Oh, to what? She murmurs uninterestedly, craning her neck, looking around the stark, dimly lit, very white room. Freedom? I ask. But she's not listening, because some English guy wearing a 3-button wool houndstooth suit, a tattersall wool vest, a spread-collar cotton Oxford shirt, suede shoes, and a silk tie, all by Garrick Anderson, whom Evalyn pointed out once after we'd had a fight at O-Bar and called gorgeous, and whom I had called a dwarf, walks over to our table, openly flirting with her, and it pisses me off to think that she feels I'm jealous about this guy, but I eventually get the last laugh when he asks if she still has a job at that art gallery on First Avenue. And Evalyn, clearly stressed, her face falling, answers no, corrects him, and after a few awkward words he moves on. She sniffs, opens her menu, immediately starts on about something else without looking at me. What are all these t-shirts I've been seeing? She asks. All over the city. Have you seen them? Silkience equals death? Are people having problems with their conditioners or something? Am I missing something? What were we talking about? No, that's absolutely wrong. It's science equals death. I sigh, close my eyes. Jesus, Evalyn, only you could confuse that and a hair product. I have no idea what the hell I'm saying, but I nod, waving to someone at the bar, an older man, his face covered in shadow, someone I only half know, actually, but he manages to raise his champagne glass my way and smile back, which is a relief. Who's that? I hear Evalyn asking. He's a friend of mine, I say. I don't recognize him, she says. P&P? Forget it, I sigh. Who is it, Patrick? She asks, more interested in my reluctance than in an actual name. Why? I ask back. Who is it? She asks. Tell me. A friend of mine, I say, teeth gritted. Who? Patrick, she asks, then squinting. Wasn't he at my Christmas party? No, he was not, I say, my hands drumming the tabletop. Isn't it Michael J. Fox? She asks, still squinting. The actor? Hardly, I say, then, fed up. Oh, for Christ's sake, his name is George Levanter, and no, he didn't star in The Secret of My Success. Oh, how interesting. Already, Evalyn is back poring over the menu. Now, what were we talking about? Trying to remember, I ask, conditioners, or some kind of conditioner? I sigh. I don't know. You were talking to the dwarf. Ian is not a midget, Patrick, she says. He is unusually short, Evalyn, I counter. Are you sure he wasn't at your Christmas party? And then, my voice lowered, serving hors d'oeuvres. You cannot keep referring to Ian as a dwarf, she says, smoothing her napkin over her lap. I will not stand for it, she whispers, not looking at me. I can't restrain myself from snickering. It isn't funny, Patrick, she says. You cut the conversation short, I point out. Did you expect me to be flattered? She spits out bitterly. Listen, baby, I'm just trying to make that encounter seem as legitimate as possible, so don't, screw it up for yourself. Just stop it, she says, ignoring me. Oh, look, it's Robert Farrell. And waving to him, she discreetly points him out to me, and sure enough, Bob Farrell, whom everybody likes, is sitting on the north side of the room at a window table, which secretly drives me mad. He's very good-looking, Evalyn confides admiringly, only because she's noticed me contemplating the 20-year-old hardbody he's sitting with, and to make sure I've registered this, she teasingly chirps, Hope I'm not making you jealous. He's handsome, I admit. Stupid looking, but handsome. Don't be nasty. He's very handsome, she says, and then suggests, why don't you get your hair styled that way? Before this comment, I was an automaton, only vaguely paying attention to Evalyn. But now I'm panicked, and I ask, what's wrong with my hair? In a matter of seconds, my rage quadruples. What the hell is wrong with my hair? I touch it lightly. Nothing, she says, noticing how upset I've gotten. Just a suggestion. And then, really noticing how flushed I've become. Your hair looks really, really great. She tries to smile, but only succeeds in looking worried. A sip, half a glass of the J&B calms me enough to say, looking over at Farrell. Actually, I'm horrified of his paunch. Evalyn studies Farrell, too. Oh, he doesn't have a paunch. That's definitely a paunch, I say. Look at it. That's just the way he's sitting, she says, exasperated. Oh, It's a paunch, Evalyn, I stress. Oh, you're crazy, she waves me off. A lunatic. Evalyn, the man is barely 30. So what? Everyone's not into weightlifting like you, she says, annoyed, looking back at the menu. I do not weightlift, I sigh. Oh, go over and sock him in the nose then, you big bully, she says, brushing me off. I really don't care. Don't tempt me, I warn her. Then, looking back at Farrell, I mutter, what a creep. Oh my God, Patrick, you have no right to be so embittered, Evalyn says angrily, still staring into her menu. Your animosity is grounded on nothing. There must be something really the matter with you. Look at his suit, I point out, unable to help myself. Look at what he's wearing. Oh, so what, Patrick? She turns a page, finds it has nothing on it, and turns back to the page she was previously studying. Hasn't it occurred to him that his suit might inspire loathing? I ask. Patrick, you are being a lunatic, she says, shaking her head, now looking over the wine list. God damn it, Evalyn. What do you mean, being? I say. I fucking am one. Must you be so militant about it? She asks. I don't know. I shrug. Anyway, I was going to tell you what happened to Melania and Taylor, and she notices something, and in the same sentence adds, sighing, Stop looking at my chest, Patrick. Look at me, not my chest. Now anyway, Taylor Grassgreen and Melania were... You know Melania, she went to Sweetbriar. Her father owns all those banks in Dallas. And Taylor went to Cornell. Anyway, they were supposed to meet at the Cornell Club. And then they had a reservation at Mondrian at 7, and he was wearing... She stops, retraces. No, La Seine. They were going to La Seine, and Taylor was... She stops again. Oh, God, it was Mondrian. Mondrian at 7, and he was wearing a Piero Dimitri suit. Melania had been shopping. I think she'd been to Bergdorf's, though I'm not positive. But anyway, oh yes, it was Bergdorf's, because she was wearing the scarf at the office the other day. So anyway, she hadn't been to her aerobics class for something like 2 days, and they were mugged on one of... Waiter, I call to someone passing by. Another drink. J&B? I point to the glass, upset that I phrased it as a question rather than a command. Don't you want to find out what happened? Evalyn asks, displeased. With bated breath, I sigh, totally uninterested. I can hardly wait. Anyway, the most amusing thing happened, she starts. I am absorbing what you are saying to me, I'm thinking. I notice her lack of carnality, and for the first time, it taunts me. Before, it was what attracted me to Evalyn. Now, its absence upsets me, seems sinister, fills me with a nameless dread. At our last session, yesterday, in fact, the psychiatrist I've been seeing for the past 2 months asked, What method of contraception do you and Evalyn use? And I sighed before answering, my eyes fixed out the window on a skyscraper, then at the painting above the Turchin glass coffee table, a giant visual reproduction of a graphic equalizer by another artist, not Annika. Her job. When he asked about her preferred sexual act, I told him, completely serious, foreclosure. Dimly aware that if it weren't for the people in the restaurant, I would take the jade chopsticks sitting on the table and push them deep into Evalyn's eyes and snap them in two. I nod, pretending to listen, but I've already phased out, and I don't do the chopsticks thing. Instead, I order a bottle of the Chasson Montrachet. Isn't it amusing? Evalyn asks. Casually laughing along with her, the sounds coming out of my mouth loaded with scorn. I admit, righteous. I say it suddenly, blankly. My gaze traces the line of women at the bar. Are there any I'd like to fuck? Probably. The long-legged hard body sipping a kir on the last stool. Perhaps. Evalyn is agonizing between the mâche raisin and gumbo salad, or the gratinized beet, hazelnut, baby greens, and endive salad, and I suddenly feel like I've been pumped full of Klonopin, which is an anti-convulsive, but it wasn't doing any good. Christ, $20 for a fucking egg roll? I mutter, studying the menu. It's a moushu custard, lightly grilled, she says. It's a fucking egg roll, I protest, to which Evalyn replies, You're so cultivated, Patrick. No, I shrug, just reasonable. I'm desperate for some beluga, she says. Honey? No, I say. Why not? She asks, pouting. Because I don't want anything out of a can, or that's Iranian. I sigh. She sniffs haughtily and looks back at the menu. The Mufu jambalaya is really first rate, I hear her say. The minutes tick by. We order. The meal arrives. Typically the plate is massive, white porcelain. 2 pieces of blackened yellowtail sashimi with ginger lie in the middle, surrounded by tiny dots of wasabi, which is circled by a minuscule amount of hijiki, and on top of the plate sits one lone baby prawn. Another one, even smaller, lies curled on the bottom, which confuses me since I thought this was a primarily Chinese restaurant. I stare at the plate for a long time, and when I ask for some water, our waiter reappears with a pepper shaker instead and insists on hanging around our table, constantly asking us 5-minute intervals if we'd like some pepper perhaps, or more pepper. And once the fool moves over to another booth, whose occupants I can see out of the corner of my eye, both cover their plates with their hands, I wave the maitre d' over and ask him, could you please tell the waiter with the pepper shaker to stop hovering over our table? We don't want pepper. We haven't ordered anything that needs pepper. No pepper. Tell him to get lost. Of course. My apologies. The maitre d' humbly bows. Embarrassed, Evalyn asks, must you be so overly polite? I put down my fork and shut my eyes. Why are you constantly undermining my stability? She breathes in. Let's just have a conversation, not an interrogation. Okay? About what? I snarl. Listen, she says. The young Republican bash at the she stops herself as if remembering something, then continues. At the Trump Plaza is next Thursday. I want to tell her I can't make it, hoping to God she has other plans, even though 2 weeks ago, drunk and coked up at Mortimer's or O-Bar, I invited her, for Christ's sake. Are we going? After a pause. I guess, I say glumly. For dessert, I've arranged something special. At a power breakfast at the 21 Club this morning with Craig McDermott, Alex Baxter, and Charles Kennedy, I stole a urinal cake from the men's room when the attendant wasn't looking. At home, I covered it with a cheap chocolate syrup, froze it, then placed it in an empty Godiva box, tying a silk bow around it. And now, in Luke, when I excuse myself to the restroom, I make my way instead to the kitchen, after I've stopped at the coat check to retrieve the package, and I ask our waiter to present this to the table in the box, and to tell the lady seated there that Mr. Bateman called up earlier to order this, especially for her. I even tell him, while opening the box, to put a flower on it. Whatever. Hand him a 50. He brings it over once a suitable amount of time has elapsed, after our plates have been removed, and I'm impressed by what a big deal he makes over it. He's even placed a silver dome over the box, and Evalyn coos with delight when he lifts it off, saying, "Voilà!" And she makes a move for the spoon he's laid next to her water glass, that I make sure is empty. And turning to me, Evalyn says, "Patrick, that's so sweet." And I nod to the waiter, smiling, and wave him away when he tries to place a spoon on my side of the table. "Aren't you having any?" Evalyn asks, concerned. She hovers over the chocolate-dipped urinal cake, anxiously, poised. "I adore Godiva." "I'm not hungry," I say. "Dinner was filling." She leans down, smelling the brown oval, and catching a scent of something, probably disinfectant, asks me, now dismayed, "Are you sure?" "No, darling," I say. "I want you to eat it. There's not a lot there." She takes the first bite, chewing dutifully, immediately and obviously disgusted, then swallows. She shudders, then makes a grimace but tries to smile as she takes another tentative bite. "How is it?" I ask, then urging, "Eat it. It's not poisoned or anything." Her face, twisted with displeasure, manages to blanch again as if she were gagging. "What?" I ask, grinning. "What is it?" "It's so..." Her face is now one long, agonized grimace mask, and, shuddering, she coughs, "Minty." But she tries to smile, appreciatively, which becomes an impossibility. She reaches for my glass of water and gulps it down, desperate to rid her mouth of the taste. Then, noticing how worried I look, she tries to smile, this time apologetically. "It's just..." She shudders again. "It's just... so minty." To me, she looks like a big black ant. A big black ant in an original Christian LaCroix, eating a urinal cake, and I almost start laughing. But I also want to keep her at ease. I don't want her to get second thoughts about finishing the urinal cake. But she can't eat anymore, and with only 2 bites taken, pretending to be full, she pushes the tainted plate away, and at this moment, I start feeling strange. Even though I marveled at her eating that thing, it also makes me sad, and suddenly I'm reminded that no matter how satisfying it was to see Evalyn eating something I, and countless others, had pissed on, in the end the displeasure it caused was at my expense. It's an anticlimax, a futile excuse to put up with her for 3 hours. My jaw begins to clench, relax, involuntarily. There is music playing somewhere, but I can't hear it. Evalyn asks the waiter, hoarsely, if perhaps he could get her some lifesavers from the Korean deli around the block. Then, very simply, dinner reaches its crisis point when Evalyn says, "I want a firm commitment." The evening has already deteriorated considerably, so this comment doesn't ruin anything or leave me unprepared. But the unreasonableness of our situation is choking me, and I push my water glass back toward Evalyn and ask the waiter to remove the half-eaten urinal cake. My endurance for tonight is shot the second the melting dessert is taken away. For the first time, I notice that she has been eyeing me for the last 2 years, not with adoration, but with something closer to greed. Someone finally brings her a water glass along with a bottle of Evian I didn't hear her order. "I think, Evalyn, that..." I start again, "that we've lost touch." "Why? What's wrong?" She's waving to a couple, Lawrence Montgomery and Gina Webster, I think, and from across the room, Gina holds up her hand, which has a bracelet on it. Evalyn nods approvingly. My need to engage in homicidal behavior on a massive scale cannot be corrected, I tell her, measuring each word carefully. But I have no other way to express my blocked needs. I'm surprised at how emotional this admission makes me, and it wears me down. I feel lightheaded. As usual, Evalyn misses the essence of what I'm saying, and I wonder how long it will take to finally rid myself of her. "We need to talk," I say quietly. She puts her empty water glass down and stares at me. "Patrick," she begins, "if you're going to start in again on why I should have breast implants, I'm leaving," she warns. I consider this. Then, "It's over, Evalyn. It's all over." "Touchy, she says, motioning to the waiter for more water. "I'm serious," I say quietly. "It's fucking over. Us. This is no joke." She looks back at me, and I think that maybe someone is actually comprehending what I'm trying to get through to them. But then she says, "Let's just avoid the issue, all right? I'm sorry I said anything. Now, are we having coffee?" Again, she waves the waiter over. "I'll have a decaf espresso," Evalyn says. "Patrick?" "Port," I sigh. "Any kind of port." "Would you like to see," the waiter begins. "Just the most expensive port." I cut him off. "Oh, and yeah, a dry beer." My, Evalyn murmurs after the waiter leaves. "Are you still seeing your shrink?" I ask. "Patrick," she warns. "Who?" "Sorry," I sigh. "Your doctor." "No." She opens her handbag, looking for something. "Why not?" I ask, concerned. "I told you why," she says, dismissively. "But I don't remember," I say, mimicking her. "At the end of a session, he asked me if I could get him +3 into Nels that night." She checks her mouth, the lips, in the mirror of the compact. "Why do you ask?"
"Because I think you need to see someone." I begin, hesitantly, honestly. "I think you're emotionally unstable."
"You have a poster of Oliver North in your apartment, and you're calling me unstable?" she asks, searching for something else in the handbag.
"No, you are, Evalyn," I say.
"Exaggerating. You're exaggerating," she says, rifling through the bag, not looking at me. I sigh, but then begin gravely.
"I'm not going to push the issue, but—"
"How uncharacteristic of you, Patrick," she says.
"Evalyn, this has got to end," I sigh, talking to my napkin. "I'm 27. I don't want to be weighed down with a commitment."
"Honey?"
she asks. "Don't call me that," I snap.
"What, honey?" she asks.
"Yes," I snap again.
"What do you want me to call you?" she asks indignantly. "CEO?" She stifles a giggle.
"Oh, Christ."
"No, really, Patrick, what do you want me to call you?"
"King," I'm thinking.
"King, Evalyn. I want you to call me King, but I don't say this."
"Evalyn, I don't want you to call me anything. I don't think we should see each other anymore."
"But your friends are my friends. My friends are your friends. I don't think it would work," she says, and then, staring at a spot above my mouth, "You have a tiny fleck at the top of your lip. Use your napkin."
Exasperated, I brush the fleck away. "Listen, I know that your friends are my friends, and vice versa. I've thought about that." After a pause, I say, breathing in, "You can have them." Finally, she looks at me, confused, and murmurs,
"You're really serious, aren't you?"
"Yes," I say, "I am."
"But what about us? What about the past?"
she asks blankly. "The past isn't real. It's just a dream." I say, "Don't mention the past." She narrows her eyes with suspicion.
"Do you have something against me, Patrick?" And then the hardness in her face changes instantaneously to expectation, maybe hope.
"Evalyn," I sigh, "I'm sorry, you're just not terribly important to me."
Without missing a beat, she demands, "Well, who is? Who do you think is, Patrick? Who do you want?" After an angry pause, she asks, "Cher?"
"Cher?" I ask back, confused. "Cher? What are you talking about? Oh, forget it. I want it over. I need sex on a regular basis. I need to be distracted."
In a matter of seconds, she becomes frantic, barely able to contain the rising hysteria that's surging through her body. I'm not enjoying it as much as I thought I would. "But what about the past? Our past?" she asks again, uselessly.
"Don't mention it," I tell her, leaning in.
"Why not?"
Because we never really shared one, I say, keeping my voice from rising. She calms herself down and, ignoring me, opening her handbag again, mutters, "Pathological. Your behavior is pathological." "What does that mean?" I ask, offended. "Abhorrent. You're pathological." She finds a Laura Ashley pillbox and unsnaps it. "Pathological what?" I ask, trying to smile. "Forget it." She takes a pill that I don't recognize and uses my water to swallow it. "I'm pathological? You're telling me that I'm pathological?" I ask. "We look at the world differently, Patrick," she sniffs. "Thank God," I say viciously. "You're inhuman," she says, trying, I think, not to cry. I stall, attempting to defend myself. "In touch with humanity." "No, no," she shakes her head. "I know my behavior is erratic sometimes," I say, fumbling. Suddenly, desperately, she takes my hand from across the table, pulling it closer to her. "What do you want me to do? What is it that you want?" "Ugh, Evalyn," I groan, pulling my hand away, shocked that I've finally gotten through to her. She's crying. "What do you want me to do, Patrick? Tell me, please," she begs. "You should, oh God, I don't know, wear erotic underwear?" I say, guessing. "Oh Jesus, Evalyn, I don't know. Nothing. You can't do anything." "Please. What can I do?" she sobs quietly. "Smile less often? Know more about cars? Say my name with less regularity? Is this what you want to hear?" I ask. "It won't change anything. You don't even drink beer," I mutter. "But you don't drink beer either." "That doesn't matter. Besides, I just ordered one, so there." "Oh, Patrick." "If you really want to do something for me, you can stop making a scene right now," I say, looking uncomfortably around the room. "Waiter?" she asks as soon as he sets down the decaf espresso, the port, and the dry beer. I'll have a what?" She looks over at me tearfully, confused and panicked. "A Corona? Is that what you drink, Patrick? A Corona?" "Oh my God, give it up, please, just excuse her," I tell the waiter. Then, as soon as he walks away, "Yes, a Corona, but we're in fucking Chinese Cajun bistro, so..." "Oh God, Patrick," she sobs, blowing her nose into the handkerchief I've tossed at her. "You're so lousy. You're inhuman." "No, I stall again. "You are not..." She stops, wiping her face, unable to finish. "I'm not what?" I ask, waiting, interested. "You are not..." She sniffs, looking down, her shoulders heaving. "All there. You..." She chokes. "Don't add up." "I do too," I say, indignantly, defending myself. "I do too add up." "You're a ghoul," she sobs. No, I say, confused, watching her. "You're the ghoul." "Oh, God," she moans, causing the table next to ours to look over, then away. "I can't believe this." "I'm leaving now," I say soothingly. "I've assessed the situation, and I'm going." "Don't," she says, trying to grab my hand. "Don't go." "I'm leaving, Evalyn." "Where are you going?" Suddenly, she looks remarkably composed. She's been careful not to let the tears, which actually I've just noticed are very few, affect her makeup. "Tell me, Patrick, where are you going?" I placed a cigar on the table. She's too upset to even comment. "I'm just leaving," I say simply. "But where?" she asks, more tears welling up. "Where are you going?" Everyone in the restaurant within a particular oral distance seems to be looking the other way. "Where are you going?" she asks again. I make no comment, lost in my own private maze, thinking about other things. Warrants, stock offerings, ESOPs, LBOs, IPOs, finances, refinances, debentures, converts, proxy statements, 8Ks, 10Qs, zero coupons, PICs, GNPs, the IMF, hot executive gadgets, billionaires, Kinkichi, Nakajima, infinity, how fast a luxury car should go, bailouts, junk bonds, whether to cancel my subscription to The Economist, the Christmas Eve when I was 14 and had raped one of our maids, inclusivity, envying someone's life, whether someone could survive a fractured skull, waiting in airports, stifling a scream, credit cards and someone's passport and a book of matches from Le Caux Basque spattered with blood. Surface, surface, surface. A Rolls is a Rolls is a Rolls. To Evalyn, our relationship is yellow and blue, but to me, it's a gray place. Most of it blacked out, bombed. Footage from the film in my head is endless shots of stone, and any language heard is utterly foreign. The sound flickering away over new images, blood pouring from automated tellers, women giving birth through their assholes, embryos frozen or scrambled. Which is it? Nuclear warheads, billions of dollars, the total destruction of the world. Someone gets beaten up, someone else dies, sometimes bloodlessly, more often mostly by rifle shot, assassinations, comas, life played out as a sitcom, a blank canvas that reconfigures itself into a soap opera. It's an isolation ward that serves only to expose my own severely impaired capacity to feel. I am at its center, out of season, and no one ever asks me for any identification. I suddenly imagine Evalyn's skeleton, twisted and crumbling, and this fills me with glee. It takes a long time to answer her question, "Where are you going?" But after a sip of the port, then the dry beer, rousing myself, I tell her, at the same time wondering, if I were an actual automaton, what difference would there really be? "Libya." And then, after a significant pause, "Pago Pago." I meant to say Pago Pago. And then I add, "Because of your outburst, I'm not paying for this meal."